You are now listening to the fastest show on iSports Radio. My name is Daryl Kinsey Jr. Welcoming you to taking the lap of the extra mile for today, September 2nd, 2021. And ladies and gentlemen, it's championship season. The IndyCar Series coming down to the wire. They'll race next week. The NHRA getting ready to start their playoffs. Formula One back from the summer break. They're on their way towards crowning a World Drivers' Champion. And of course, NASCAR starts the playoffs this weekend. I know a couple of guys that also love when it's winning time in motorsports, or championship time in this instance. My good co-hosts, Christopher Lehman and Michael Ward.
How's it going tonight?
Hello, everyone.
Hope everyone's doing well. Guys, I hope you're doing great as well. I hope everyone is safe from Hurricane Ida. I know we got hit with the remnants here yesterday afternoon. It went up in the New York area yesterday evening. Really bucketed down all over New York City. We actually had a tornado here in Annapolis, which is about 20 minutes or so away from me by car. Sorry,
definitely. No, I said definitely scary. Like, I definitely wasn't expecting a tornado to happen.
Yeah, we actually had tornado sirens in La Plata where I work.
Yeah, I saw your video on Twitter.
Yeah, that's actually where we had a big tornado in 2002. Excuse me. And there was actually an F5 tornado that went through the town and ripped it up. So they did a lot of stuff to protect against tornadoes going forward. And as I get out of I actually just come back from lunch, and I'm sitting in the car. It's bucketing down rain, so I'm waiting for a break so I can try to get into the building. And I hear what I thought was like a horn or something, or like an emergency vehicle going by, and I'm like, what is that? So I turn the car off and open the door, and I listen, and it's tornado sirens. Now, we don't have any of those near me in Bowie, but we're in downtown La Plata, and all the sirens are on the government buildings down there. So I hear them and just run into the building and get in the stairwell, because I've been through one tornado all my life. That's the only tornado I need to go through. Michael and Chris, it's a thing where you go through it one time, you never want to do it again. It's that bad.
Yeah, completely understandable. I live in an area of the country where we don't get hurricanes or tornadoes or anything like that. I mean, we get some nasty blizzards, and I mean that's, it gets dangerous for us if we get blizzards and our power goes out and we lose our heat. That's really about the only thing that we have to worry about in where I live. We're relatively in a safe area of the country in terms of storms and tornadoes.
Yeah, if there's one thing I'd rather not go through in life, it's definitely a tornado.
Yeah. Well, you know what else I wouldn't want to go through in my life? Whatever that Belgian Grand Prix was on Sunday. That's where we're going to start tonight. Usually we would be talking about the newest clash between Verstappen and Hamilton, but there really wasn't one, because there really wasn't a race. I don't know what to call what we saw, other than if you're clicking on this episode and listening live or recorded, you kind of already know the title. Sunday was a farce. And probably, I'm going to throw this out there and then let you guys talk about it. I think it's a bigger farce than the 2005 U.S. Grand Prix.
Ooh, man.
What I would say is that to be successful, you have to learn from not only yourself but other people, especially when it comes to motorsports. So when it comes to rain and stuff like this, I mean, I think NASCAR's got it figured out pretty good, where they've got rain delays and then they have postponement days. Typically the Monday or Sunday or Monday if it's a Saturday race. It would be the day after. And I think what this highlights is the need for Formula One to invest in a paid crew, stewards, everyone they need at the track. It's time to stop relying on the volunteers, because what happened this past weekend, if you were a first-time watcher, I don't think you're coming back. Maybe you'd come back eventually, but you're not coming back, now that we're going to, next week anyway for the Dutch. You're probably not coming back. So it's time that we get a fully paid Formula One staff that travels with the FIA, it travels with the teams basically, and that way we can have postponement dates that aren't later in the season.
Mm-hmm. And I know people were talking about, well, they would have had to get to the Netherlands this coming week. Well, it's only like 170 miles away. Like, they could have ran on Monday, crated everything up, and just went to the track for Friday if they raced on Monday, which is what they ended up doing anyway. And let me tell you guys something. So usually every time around the United States Grand Prix, when I've been doing this show, I like to do a thing where I like to Google the ticket prices and then sit on here and get sticker shock for like 20 minutes. Because I don't know if y'all know this, but Formula One tickets are expensive.
So is the merch. You get like a t-shirt and it's like $50-$60, and that's just a t-shirt.
Yeah. So usually I do this later, but I need to make a point, so we're going to do it now. Most of the tickets, so they do have single day tickets this time. This is from the Circuit of the Americas website. Looks like from $49. They've only got 2 tickets left for Friday or Saturday. That's like $109, but that's not going to get my point across. Let's go to the 3-day tickets. Is this not going to show me anything because all the seats are gone? I don't think this is going to show me anything because the seats are gone. So I'm going to have to rely on memory here. But the last time we did this, which I think was last year, Chris, you weren't here yet, $1,500 a ticket to go to the United States Grand Prix for a weekend pass.
Jesus.
I did this for the NHRA in 2018 when I graduated. It was $100 a ticket. NASCAR, it's like maybe... Okay, take Daytona out of it because it's Daytona. I think it's like another something like that, like $150 for the ticket.
I think for Bristol, I think I paid $2 something a ticket, but that's like tax and all those other fees that they tack on and stuff. But I think it was $2 something a ticket.
And it's Bristol, so
and it's the Bristol night race.
Yeah, so that's gonna bump up the pay a little bit. Yeah, all the tickets are sold out, so I can't really get a price this time. But I'll tell you one thing: the filter for the price goes from, and this is in euros, $184 for 3 days to $1,300 for a weekend ticket, which is about $1,500 US dollars. The point I'm trying to make: these races are far too freaking expensive for that nonsense that we saw. There is no reason that should have happened at all.
Nope.
And I don't know what they're going to do to rectify this. I think they're gonna work out some options. Everybody that was at that race should have a free ticket to next year's Belgian Grand Prix at the minimum.
So it did say the FIA was working with the track promoter to get refunds back.
Yeah.
And my guess would be it was kind of like this with COVID last year. So with Bristol, they were offering you your money back, but if you put them off to 2021, they gave you not necessarily like cash back, but a voucher where you could you could upgrade. So they gave you 20% of your ticket price. So if your ticket was $100, they gave you $120 ticket value for next year. So you could like upgrade your seats if you wanted, or do something. And I thought that was like, I mean, that was like more than fair. And so they should offer something like that where, hey, you can get your money back, or next year, like we'll just let you in. You know, we'll give you a free ticket, not necessarily free because they're already paid for, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we'll honor this year's ticket next year. And I know that gets a little hairy with like grandstands and stuff, but there's a good chance that most of the people that were going this year were probably going again next year anyway.
Yeah. So let's get into what actually happened a little bit. So we get to the morning of the British Grand Prix, and it is raining hard. Like, it is just pouring rain all day. So they try to get the race to start, and as they are going through...
I mean, Derek, we could even back up and do qualifying too, because Lando had that nasty wreck after.
Yeah, let's start with qualifying, because that's really what set everything up, actually. So we'll get back to the race. So we go to qualifying, and it's raining off and on. So they're trying to figure out, switching from wets to inters. We get to qualifying 3, and it's a deluge. Now, we've already had that 6-car pileup in the W Series, which... There were some comments about the W Series that came out that I may go on a monologue about here tonight. That actually came out, but nothing to do with the accident. But when we get to Q3, it's raining hard. Sebastian Vettel and Lando Norris are on the track. Vettel is talking about this session needs to be red flagged. Not long after he said that, Lando Norris goes into Eau Rouge. And if you've ever seen a Belgian Grand Prix or any race at Spa, you know this. If you have a mistake in Eau Rouge, it's gonna be big. And Lando gets a little bit squirrely because of the conditions, goes into the wall, destroys the car. Session goes into a red flag. Vettel is pissed. They wait around like an extra 15 minutes to actually run the session. Max Verstappen ends up getting the pole. Second is George Russell in the Williams. Now, that was amazing, but it kind of got overshadowed. But it's a terrible situation, guys, to start that session.
Yeah, and I was watching, and I was texting you guys throughout it, and just watching it, I saw Lando it was instant, as you guys know, when it comes to that turn. You make a mistake, and there is no correcting it. You're just along for the ride. And but then it became so, and I didn't like the way that Formula One put it on Twitter either. Like, with Vettel stopping, they were like, "Oh, how you doing?" Play the audio that Vettel actually said. That's what they would never post it, but that's what they should write. But so then we come back, and Mercedes was burning through tires, and George Russell, it became apparent when Lewis was about halfway through his lap, and they were like, we don't think he's going to put up a faster time. And it was like a couple seconds later is when George Russell crossed the line, and they were like, oh, he went up to P1, and they started celebrating, and Lewis got out of sector 2, and they were like, oh my God, like this is George Russell's, like, he's got it. Lewis hasn't been fast on sector 3 the whole time. It's going to take something. Lewis crosses, and just even me, like, I was like, oh my God, George Russell's got this. I texted you guys too. I was like, guys, George Russell just got the pole. Mm-hmm. And then in the last corner, is when Verstappen's time when he caught and overtook him. But it was one tire lockup for a millisecond that cost George Russell his first win. And win with an asterisk, obviously.
And to be honest, I think we all said that probably didn't need to happen. Or that he didn't need to get that pole just with everything that happened that we're about to get into on Sunday. It's probably for the best.
Yep. But Saturday could have been handled much different. It should have been handled differently.
Yeah. And it didn't really get better as we got into Sunday. As we get into it, and it's raining even harder than it did on Saturday. Like, it's obvious this race probably is not going to go on, because the last time they tried to start a race with that much rain was the 1998 Belgian Grand Prix, and we destroyed the entirety of the field. So I don't see us doing that again.
Yeah, I remember that race. That's the race Eddie Jordan never shuts up about.
Yep. It's also the race that they went to the backup cars. Damon Hill ended up winning that event.
Yep.
So we end up starting.
Eddie Jordan, though.
Yep. So we start behind the safety car, end up figuring out real fast we ain't racing. So they go back and sit in the pit lane, and guys, it felt really NASCAR at this point, because it just feels like we're just waiting forever and ever and ever for this race to actually get going.
Yeah, I was waiting for them to start showing reruns of old races.
If they had started showing the 2020 Belgian Grand Prix, it would have come full circle.
Yeah, it got frustrating when they're like, "Oh, we're pushing the start time. It's going to be 3:05 local, and then 3:10, then 3:15, then 3:25." And at this point, I was like, "Okay, just call the dang thing."
Yep. I was there too. Like, I was watching with my girlfriend. We were watching between Hurricane Ida coverage and the race. And by about the 2.5 hour mark, I'm just like, can we wrap this up? Because it's obvious we're not going to race. But we're missing something, so I want to go back to that and then come back forward. Before they even got to the grid, Sergio Perez stuffs it in the barriers, wrecks the suspension, can't race. Because they took the formation lap but didn't actually start the race, which is important, they were able to repair that car and actually get him onto the grid where he officially finished 20th, which is going to be something that we're going to talk about as well in a little bit with the FIA understanding its own rules. We are sitting there and they're trying to figure out what they're going to do, and then suddenly we're going to start the race. So everybody runs to the cars to get in. They pull off, and anybody with half a brain knew exactly what they were doing. They were just trying to get to the 2 laps to make this race official and move on, and that's what they did. They ran 2 official laps behind the pace car, pulled the cars back in, and ended the race. Max Verstappen wins the Belgian Grand Prix. George Russell gets his first podium, and Lewis Hamilton finishes 3rd. And people were and had the right to be pissed. Except for George getting 2nd.
Oh, yeah, I was happy for George.
That's the only person I was happy about here.
So in the qualifying, and not to go back to that, but Lewis Hamilton completely like gave George Russell the cold shoulder, because afterwards, you know how they do the interview with the top couple guys, and Lewis was like, "Oh, great drive from Max," and he goes, "Really great drive from Max," and then he started talking, and then they're like, "What about George Russell?" And he goes, "Oh yeah, really good drive by George too." But he completely just overshadowed George, which I think as it almost becomes a theme of this weekend, overlooking just how brilliant George Russell's lap was in that Q3 qualifying, because that was just amazing what he did that with that car.
Yeah. And well, to be honest, he's never really had to talk about George Russell after a qualifying session, so he probably forgot. He probably honestly either didn't realize or forgot, because to be honest, he doesn't have to talk about George Russell that much.
Yeah. Did you guys ever see the little game they play where F1 drivers try to remember their numbers? Other's numbers? I think at some point, I think Hamilton was like the worst guy there. He was like, "Oh yeah, I don't really remember much of everybody's number." And I'm just like, "Why? Because you're always in front." He's like, "Yeah."
He doesn't get to see a lot of other numbers, to be honest.
except for 33 and occasionally 16, and yeah.
Yeah, but
how many do you think you guys could do off the top of your head right now without doing it out loud? But how many do you think you could get?
I don't really know the numbers yet, even though everybody's got their own number, because you can't really see them.
I feel like I can do it.
So we had a comment here, actually a minute ago, from Amanda J in the chat. She said that sounds like some NASCAR would pull, in reference to how Formula One ended that race. And get in the live chat if you want to speak with us. We'll read your comments out here live on the program. I do kind of agree that it felt like a NASCAR thing, but NASCAR at least wouldn't have tried to start that race. If it was on an oval, if it was on a road course, it's a completely different story. Hi, Coda. But at least to NASCAR's credit, they would have figured out really fast, yeah, we ain't racing today, and did this on Monday. But this goes to another point, and then we got to get to breaks. Well, not yet, but we got 8 minutes, so we got to take a break. But Formula One and their understanding of their own rule book. They didn't know whether or not Perez could actually start the race. Red Bull, as Chris, you were telling us at the beginning, had to tell the officials they could stop the clock, the 3-hour clock, before they wouldn't have been able to race, to preserve time. Let me repeat that. A team had to tell the stewards their own rules. I get it that they don't do this often when it comes to rain, but you would think the people running the show would have an understanding of their own rule book.
I think it was Mercedes that told the FIA that they could fix Perez's car and start it. I think it was Mercedes that told that to the FIA. Because I was in the car, so I was listening to the radio broadcast, not the TV. And so, they just have a ton of different information. And so when this stuff goes on, I mean, they're not at the track calling, the information. They're just listening and kind of observing. So you actually get quite a bit. And they were saying like Toto Wolff was like, yeah, he can fix the car. That's in the rules. Mm-hmm. And they were like, oh, okay. Well, Christian, yeah, you guys can fix the car and send them back out.
Which is great, in my opinion. They can fix their car and come back out.
I'm going to be real. I think Massey's got to go.
That's what people were saying. Is this the last straw?
How does he not know First, he's got us stuck with his ridiculously stringent calling of race contact, which in some way kind of led to what we saw in the British Grand Prix. And then this weekend just showed 0% control and understanding of the rules of the sport you're trying to officiate. Like, this race should not have happened this way. It should have went, look, the weather's not going to improve. Let's just go ahead and call it. figure out a way to either do this tomorrow. They can't really come back because they're in the Ardennes Mountains.
Right.
So there's going to be snow there in a month or two. So let's just get these people their money back and just go on to the next race. Instead, go ahead.
It might be kind of a stretch, but I feel like Charlie Whiting would have definitely called this race a lot better.
Charlie Whiting would not have let this race go on that long.
Yeah. Continue on what you were saying. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it shouldn't have taken 5 hours to realize that race wasn't going to run on Sunday. And I think that serious changes need to be made up to and including maybe getting rid of Massey for someone else. Excuse me.
Yeah, somebody who can make the calls and has that good judgment. Maybe somebody from like another racing series. Maybe they can get someone who has like previous WEC experience or previous sports car and series or IndyCar experience, or just somebody with the experience.
Imagine if it was one of the Steves.
Oh God. Steve O'Donnell just deactivated his account. He probably would have had to go into witness protection if that happened.
Hey, I guess something we didn't think about, the benefit of the result was that Lewis Hamilton didn't need the Belgian National Guard to get him out of the racetrack.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Oh, it may have needed the Belgian Navy with how hard it was raining.
Yeah.
But
people didn't start getting their boats.
Yeah.
Trying to do boat racing. You remember that meme Chris put in the chat where he was like hydroplanes at Spa?
I saw that. They'd have needed the H1 Unlimited hydroplanes to finish that race, to be honest.
Everybody's just F1 turns into a hydroplane race.
Aquaplane is what they call it.
Yeah. So they will go on to the Dutch GP this week. Excuse me. And that's going to be in Max Verstappen's hometown. We will see how that goes.
Now, contact there will actually be a riot.
Yeah.
Yeah. If there is an issue there, they're really going to need the Belgian National Guard to get him out of there. So
Belgium and breed to the Netherlands.
Yep. So we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to get into the NASCAR playoffs and we're going to give our picks on who we think's not going to make it out of round number 1. But before then, we got to thank our sponsors, of course, Southern California Warriors Semi-Pro Football Team. We're going to get into a quick update on the season. Week 3 just ended, and the Southern California Warriors were victorious, beating the Desert Scorpions 12-0. They are now 2-1, and they are now slotted into the 3rd position in the PCFC standings. Folks, I don't have to tell you this anymore. You've heard me say it several times already. Warriors Semi-Pro Sports, it's unlike any other pro sports organization where players are playing either for the love of the game, to stay in shape, or get film for professional or big-time colleges. If you are out there trying to get your career going in sports, give Semi-Pro a chance. You might find the second chance you have been waiting for and rekindle that love of the game. And the Southern California Warriors have been doing that as they've been on a quest to earn titles since 2017. Check them out on Twitter at SoCal Warriors, at Southern California _Warriors on Instagram, and on Facebook at Southern California Warriors. We'll be right back here in the Extra Mile on iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's good, fight fans? It's your boy, Marcus Los Great, here to give you what you want, here to give you what you need. Yeah, man. Yeah. I'm coming to you live, straight from your mama's basement with a crispy, awesome white tea. We are coming to you live every Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hey, folks, if you have a business and you need to do some background checks, give Background Check International a call. Let Kit Freeman take care of the background check system for you. Kit has founded and has managed Background Check International since 1994, and he's here to help you with the screening process. Contact Kit and let him help make the hiring process that much easier. This business is used for professional background checks and not for the use of any crimes such as identity theft or any other illegal activity. Follow them on social media at bcint.com and Facebook at Background Check International-BCI. We're back here on the Extra Mile here on iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Time to get into NASCAR before we go into nearest the win, of course, as it's time to start the NASCAR playoffs at the Southern 500. This used to be the throwback weekend. They have moved that now to May. So now this is round one of the playoffs and yet another one of the races in NASCAR's coveted crown jewels of the sport. Got another one of those coming up, the Bristol night race, also in these playoffs. And of course, it sets up the 16-car field that will be in round number one of the playoffs. And let's go through that field presently. Got Kyle Larson, the regular season points champion first, then Ryan Blaney, Martin Truex Jr., Kyle Busch. 5 through 8, Chase Elliott, Alex Bowman, Denny Hamlin, William Byron. 9 through 12 is Joey Logano, Brad Keselowski, Kurt Busch, Christopher Bell. And the final four, Michael McDowell, Eric Almirola, Tyler Reddick, and Kevin Harvick. Now, 16 are going to start. One is going to be the champion at the end of this, but of course, we got to figure out who's going to make it out of this round and whose championship ambitions are going to end today or end at the end of this round. And to be honest, as I'm looking at the category, and this might be a cop-out, but that bottom four pretty much has most of the guys that I think are not going to make it out. And it's a thing at this time of who's been consistent and who hasn't. Kevin Harvick and Eric Almirola, who are 14th and 16th, the struggles with Stewart-Haas Racing have been well documented this season, with Kevin Harvick going from on the precipice of championship glory last season to being the first guy out if the championship were to end today, or the playoffs were to end today, sorry. Eric Almirola got a surprise win earlier this season, but since then, and really the whole season, hasn't really looked good with just 2 top 5s and 3 top 10s. And Michael McDowell, well, he won the Daytona 500, and that's about all there was to write home about that season. So we got 3 cars, very disappointing seasons. We got 4 drivers. We got to say who's going to end up out of this round. We'll come back to mine at the end. We'll go to Christopher first. Who do you think's not going to make it?
Well, first and foremost, what I would say is my first out, which would be, who I think is going to finish 16th overall, is going to be Michael McDowell, which I think is probably expected for all of us. No offense to McDowell. Then I would have Eric Almirola, Kevin Harvick, and I'm really struggling between Christopher Bell and Brad Keselowski. I think it could be either one of them, but I think that it's going to be Christopher Bell, but I would not be surprised with a Brad Keselowski surprise round of 16 out.
you can say that those Penske Ford in general just does not look good this season.
Yeah, and I'm a big college basketball guy, so I like picking like what I would consider the opposite of like an underdog. Like I want someone who's unexpected to go out, and I don't think Kevin Harvick fills that void for me. I think Keselowski would be my real surprise out, but I don't feel comfortable enough with him, so I'll go Bell, Amarola, McDowell, and Harvick.
Michael, who you got?
I got, like you guys said, I got McDowell. Like, no disrespect to McDowell, but you know his car really isn't capable of competing with those guys. And then I got Rhetoric, same kind of thing going on here because, like I said, he's a quick guy, but just not quick enough. I want to say Harvick because Harvick just hasn't had the year that we're used to seeing him in. Considering that, like last year, this man was destroying the field. It's crazy. Just not to see him do that well. And then the last one, I'm not sure. Maybe it is Keselowski because he hasn't had the year that he's been expecting either. Penske hasn't had the year they've been expecting.
Penske and Stewart-Haas Racing have both been down this season. To be honest, for my four, I honestly think 13th, 14th, and 16th, Michael McDowell, Eric Almirola, Kevin Harvick, those three guys, I'll be shocked if they get out this round, especially Michael McDowell. Kevin Harvick has just not looked good. And we've seen it all year. That team has not been fast. Stewart-Haas Racing has not been fast, and he just looks out of it. And I really think they're not going to make it. He's had a huge championship hangover from last season that's just continued into this year. Eric Almirola has just not been consistent. Well, he's been consistent. He's been consistently bad, which has really been a change from the last couple of years where he's just been inconsistent, where he would show you flashes of greatness and then go through these streaks. You're like, ooh, who's this guy? And I think that's going to continue this year. He's not going to have the consistency to get out of this round. Michael McDowell, look, that Daytona 500 win was great. The only reason he won that race is because the Penske duo took each other out. That team has done what it's done for the last 5 years, which has been a solid mid-pack team. That's not going to get you through the first round of the playoffs. You're going to get some extra TV time for Loves, but that's about it. I don't want to just say Tyler Reddick's going to be out, mainly because Richard Childress Racing, those cars did come on in the second half of the season. I think Tyler Reddick gets a stay into round number 2. I honestly think Kurt Busch is going to be that driver that drops out. I think he is just, it's going to be a luck thing that knocks him out, unfortunately. And he's had some of those races where weird stuff just happens to him. And I think that's what's going to happen to Kurt Busch. He's going to end up getting knocked out. And that's going to be my 4 to not make it into round 2. And I'll give an honorable mention to Joey Logano. He won a race earlier in the year. He's got 8 top 5s and 13 top 10s. But it's been quiet ever since with him, and he's only won 5 stages this year, so doesn't have a lot of room for error if something goes wrong. And of course, Christopher Bell doesn't either because he didn't win a stage, or he did win a race. He's got 5 bonus points. So that's it. So those are my 4. It's going to be an exciting round. The playoffs are always a lot of fun, no matter what some segments of NASCAR Twitter will say. We're not here to talk about NASCAR Twitter. The first 3 races in this round, Darlington, Richmond, and Bristol for the night race. And guys, I can't think of a tougher start of a 3-round or a 4-round playoff format in motorsports than Darlington, Richmond, and Bristol.
Yeah, that's pretty brutal. To put it lightly. But I think what we're going to see is these are the types of tracks where you're going to get the same performance out of people, pretty consistently. So, they're driver tracks, especially Bristol. And so we're really going to see, I think, the same results that we've seen there historically. So the guys that are good on short tracks, or not necessarily short tracks, but good at Bristol, so like your Joey Logano's, they're going to do really good at a track like that. Whereas, and not to continue, piling it on Michael McDowell, but he's probably not going to finish on the lead lap. He's probably going to finish multiple laps down. Same thing with Richmond. That's a tough track to get around. And I think, you're going to see tracks that require a lot of skill. And I think as a result of that, we're going to see, like, we're kind of all projecting very similar people out. And it's because, just this year, they don't have it. There's not that lucky Talladega where it's almost anybody's game to get in. This is very straightforward round that you have to be, one of the top 12 drivers. Luck factors into it a bit, but at the end of the day, if you're not one of the 12 best, you're not moving through.
No. And that round of 12 isn't any easier because, okay, you have Las Vegas, which is 1.5 miles, and then Talladega and the road course at Charlotte Motor Speedway. That is a round that just kicks you in the teeth.
Yeah, that's a no mercy round right there.
Yeah. That is a round where win Las Vegas because nobody wants to go to Talladega needing to win a race, and for darn sure, nobody's trying to go to Charlotte on the Roval, which we already know is a tough racetrack to try and get a win. You just don't want to do it.
Yeah, I don't think the Hendrick drivers would mind going to Charlotte for the Roval. With the exception of William Byron, the three of them are pretty solid when it comes to that track.
Yeah.
But you don't want to be on the outside looking in going into the Roval. That's just the way it is.
No, that's just death going into the Roval, especially if it rains. Because we saw Xfinity try to run that track in the rain. I don't know how they finished that race, to be honest. But yeah, it's gonna be wild scenes at the Bank of America Roval 400, and this is the round of 8, which I think needs some sprucing up, to be honest, because it ends with Martinsville, which is great, but you got 2.5 miles at Texas Motor Speedway in Kansas. This is kind of the easy round, quote unquote, for that final 8, but Texas and Kansas, for much different reasons, tough races to try and get through.
So, if you guys think you guys can do it, let's just do a thing. Who are your championship 4 right now, if you had to pick?
If I had to pick the championship 4, I think you got to put the Hendrick guys in there. I don't think any round anyone who's picking that without at least 1 or 2 Hendrick guys in there is fooling themselves.
I feel like you should pick at least 2 Hendrick guys.
Well, I'm going to pick Larson and Elliott. I think those two definitely get in.
Those were the same ones I was thinking.
Yeah, I think Larson's a lock. Unless he has like a Harvick stretch like last year with Harvick, I think Larson gets in. Chase Elliott's going to be there.
See, the thing with Larson is that he's got such a lead over everybody else with points right now.
Yeah,
that he really can. He can almost get away with a DNF once around and still make it through to the end. I mean, that is how many points he has compared to everybody else.
Yeah, if he wins a race in each of the rounds, he's in. He's going to go right to the 4. He's going to, like what happened with Truex, the year that Truex won the championship. My other two, Ryan Blaney has come on strong over the summer. I would not count him out getting into the championship 4. And this last guy, I've been talking about him all year about trying to get a win. I just cannot count out Denny Hamlin from getting into this championship 4. I don't know what it is, but I just feel like he's going to do enough to get there. He had 13 top 5, second in the league, 17 top 10s, also second in the sport. The only thing he's missing on his year is a win, and he finished all the races. I honestly think he's going to be that 4th guy to get in on consistency. So that's my 4 to make the championship.
I would agree with your Hamlin pick there, and actually all the drivers you said I actually have a realist. I feel very strongly about, so I'm just gonna go ahead and agree with you.
Chris, who you got?
The only one, so I feel very confident about Larson and Chase Elliott. Like, I think those two are almost a lock. But Blaney, I feel like Blaney may have peaked too early. Like,
really?
Yeah. So I think if you're really gonna peak, it's got to be like Chase Elliott last year, where it's in like the round of 8. That's if like Chase Elliott last year, he won 3 of the last 5 races, was it? Something like that. I think Blaney goes deep, but I think round of 8, I don't think he makes championship 4. That being said, I think you've got Larson. Hold on, I'm going to pull up I got my thing right here. So I've got Larson, Chase Elliott, Alex Bowman, or no, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong one. Just Truex. So I got Larson, Truex, Chase Elliott, and Kyle Busch. I think it's going to be 2v2. It's
Chevy versus Toyota, Gibbs versus Hendrick.
That's how I've got it. I've got it 2 and 2. I don't think Ford is. I don't think they've got it this year. It's not a knock on Penske, because if anybody's going to get him there, it's Penske, obviously. But I think Chevy and Toyota, I think they're just kind of on their own level. And you can say like, oh, well, Blaney's won the last 2 races in a row, and there have obviously been some Ford winners. But you look at Hendrick and Gibbs, and they're racing phenomenally. And I don't know. I don't like Ford this year for some reason.
I'm going to make an honorable mention. I think Alex Bowman can get in.
I think he's a lot of people's dark horses, and I don't say that just as a fan. I really think last year he was the most consistent in the playoffs. The only thing that he lost out on was that he didn't have the wins. He didn't go into it with enough playoff points, where once he got deep and he was starting 40 points behind Denny Hamlin, there's just not a way to overcome that.
Yeah. It's going to be wild to see what happens with the championship 4. And these predictions, who knows where they're going to go by the time this ends, because we just don't know how some of these rounds are going to end up, especially that second round and that big old wild card that is Talladega. Well, we got to get ready to get out of here, but before we do that, of course, we've got to get to nearest the win. We've got Darlington and the Dutch Grand Prix coming up. Now, Matt White did say that all of the picks from the Belgian Grand Prix were reset since we didn't have, an actual race. So, if you want to go with your pick from the Belgian Grand Prix, you still can.
That's what I'm gonna do. But I guess I will go first. I'm gonna take Truex and Verstappen.
I am going to take. Right. I'm going to take. Honestly, you know what? I'm going to take Hamilton, and I'm going to take Larson for Darlington.
I'm gonna take Verstappen, and I'm gonna take. You know, I'm gonna go on my gut. I'm gonna take Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch is the first winner of the playoffs this weekend.
We got 3 different drivers. That'll make it fun this weekend.
Well, I got to do something if I'm going to catch you in the playoff or catch you in the playoff standings.
Also, I gotta say like one thing. I might be a Trackhouse fan now.
Trackhouse is a really fun team
because Daniel Suarez was going for it in the
Do you guys remember at 7:04 I texted you guys, I think Daniel Suarez wins.
I was like, no, he's joshing. Nah.
I was like, I have a feeling he wins. And then that last lap, if Kurt Busch was an inch behind him when he made that cut, Daniel Suarez would have won.
I was like,
and I would have bought a lotto ticket.
Oh man.
I would have bought some Trackhouse gear.
I might be a Trackhouse fan now.
The only thing I was worried was that for you, Daryl, because I know that you are a 2311 fan, and Twitter is not ready for Daniel Suarez to win before Bubba Wallace does.
Oh my god.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's not.
Don't remind me. Twitter's not ready for Bubba. NASCAR Twitter's not ready for Bubba to win.
I tell you what, though, Bubba popped up second this week. I mean, you didn't even react to that on here.
It was more because I was upset just with everything that went down. If you saw the conversation, unfortunately, he got hung out by his JGR teammates twice. So, and it just kind of reflects the mood of a lot of the 2311 fans of, we really wanted to get in the playoffs, so anything but just kind of felt like a downer. But I'm happy he ran well, didn't get in the big one this time, and now it's all about trying to finish 17th and just get the data for next season. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
So that is going to pretty much wrap it up. Next week, make sure you get here 8 o'clock. Chris Hacker will be on the show once again. We're going to talk everything from bone apple teeth to his first Craftsman. Wow, I just aged myself with that one. Camping World Truck Series debut. And, of course, most recent partnership that he signed, we saw today he had a new partnership. We're going to talk about that next week. Make sure you get here 8 o'clock to hear from Chris. So, before we get out of here, Michael,
Quick trivia for you guys.
Yeah. Okay.
What year did Craftsman stop being the title sponsor of the Truck Series?
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Just Daryl, I really want you to realize how goofy that was of you to say. The last year that they were the title sponsor,
I think I was out of high school. I'm not making this any easier on myself on how old I am. I'm going to say 2011.
What about you, Michael?
I don't even remember, so I'm not even going to bother.
So, Craftsman served as the title sponsor from 1996 through 2008.
Wow. So it was the year I graduated high school. Why do I not remember that? So much has gone through there.
So one of these days, Daryl, I hope you join us. If you're still stuck in 2008, I have a lot of advice for you financially Bitcoin is one of them.
Please do, because I have a student loan I need to pay off. Oh my goodness. But hey guys, Frozen Takes with AJ coming up next. So make sure you check that out. Michael's at Michael_War25. Chris is at Fiji Sims. Keep it locked to our social media pages on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And also check out the website, iSportsRadio.com. And if you've missed any episode of any iSports Radio show, it can be heard anywhere where podcasts can be listened to. So, for Michael and Chris, I'm Daryl. This has been The Extra Mile. We will see you at the next green flag. Good night, everybody.